Texas Tech at Houston. The Red Raiders, 12.5-point favorites. They're fresh off a bye. Houston, according to Stats of War, had the least efficient and most unlikely victory in an overtime Friday night spot against Oregon State. The statistics loved the Beavers. Oregon State did everything right in that but win the football game. And yet, Houston's 4-0. They're undefeated coming into this game. And we've got a landmark Big 12 contest between the Red Raiders and the Cougars. I was worried that the Cougars were overlooking Oregon State to get to this point, and that almost was true. But Houston finds a way. They now come back home to the friendly confines. Willie Fritz is doing a tremendous job with Houston. And one of those teams that we pointed to, guys, during the preseason and said, hey, this team might be full of value based off of where they are in this early rebuild. They've looked good offensively. The defense has certainly improved. All they had to do was improve past 14 points is what their offense was averaging last season. They've certainly done that. Trey, start with you. Where do you feel like this game falls with all the expectations now sliding to the Red Raiders side? But Houston is also coming off of a less than impressive performance and certainly need to bounce back in their own right.
It was definitely a look-ahead spot for Houston last week, and you saw when Houston turned it on, they were by far the way better team on the field last week against Oregon State. But, Tech's had a chance to kind of sit in their own stew a little bit, like really read the headlines potentially, get into the rat poison a little bit over this week. Everybody's loving Texas Tech right now. They go down to Houston. I think if this was a road game in a different spot, I'd be more concerned for the Cougars, or for the Red Raiders, I should say. Guys, I think there's going to be more red and black than red and white in the stands down in Houston. If you read the tea leaves on Twitter, Houston, some Tech fans found a discount code that Houston had to shut down because Tech fans were buying up all the tickets and taking over. Shades of TCU 15 about 10 years ago. If this was, at Baylor, or if this was at Kansas or Colorado, right, where I'm a little more confident that the crowd can be a factor and not maybe even more than 50% Texas Tech fans, I'm a little more worried about this. But because I think Tech is going to travel really well in this game, I think they're going to have a nice crowd behind them. I think they're going to cover the spread. But the on-the-field stuff, I just gave Houston fans enough bulletin board material there. So you can use it in the hype video if you want, if you guys beat Tech and knock them off. But the on-the-field reason is I think Tech's defensive line is going to be a culture shock for a lot of Big 12 teams this year. The combination of just dudes and depth that they have on the defensive line, I don't know that the conference has ever seen outside of Austin or Norman, or maybe way back in the day at like Nebraska, right? It's something that is just not typical when you think about the depth of guys that they have there, the talent of guys that they have there. Something that a lot of these Big 12 teams are just, quite frankly, not built to handle. And I think that's a buzzsaw that Houston's going to run into in this one. Houston's already really struggled to move the ball consistently against their schedule so far. They put up some points in spots, but it hasn't necessarily been blowing anybody away on the offensive side of the football. And now they're going up against a defensive line that's going to be dang near impossible to block. So I'm taking Tech to cover. I think they are well on their way. The stats say that they have a very good chance of going maybe 12-0 and bucking my trend and my prediction of having no undefeated team. So I don't think the roadblock starts this week.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think that Tech covers this. I think it's a big win for them. They're for real. They're top 10 in scoring offense, top 10 in scoring defense. They're number 2 and 8 respectively. This game being in Houston might make it tricky, but like you just said, there might be more Tech fans there. Obviously, I'd prefer if I was Tech to play this one at home, but if you got a bunch of fans in the stands, that always makes it a little bit nice. I'm not necessarily expecting this one to be close. Again, kind of like you were saying, there's just too much talent on the defensive side that even if Tech doesn't come with their A game offensively and they have a slower start like they did against Utah, I still think they pull away just because I don't think that Houston's offense is going to be able to do very much, right? There's too much speed, too much rallying to the ball, physicality. I just think it's too good of a defense to really let up a lot of opportunities. I also know that quarterback at Houston does tend to struggle under pressure. So you heat him up a little bit, and I know he's probably going to fall into a couple of things. You'd hope that it could get better. Maybe it'll get better. I haven't seen it from him. So, you heat him up a little bit, bring a little bit of blitz, get him behind the chains, and I think that you can keep Houston's offense off of the game or off the field for most of this game. And I think that it probably ends up being one of those pull away type of things where if Tech doesn't completely run away with it from the start, by, halftime, third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, it's going to start getting ugly.
Yeah, I think I need to see what Houston's able to do down the field before I'm going to be buying them in a game like this. So I'm going to take Tech minus the points as well. I think Tech wins, maybe running away 17 to 21 points by the time this is all said and done. The Red Raiders are not only top 10 in explosive plays on offense, but they're also top 10 in preventing explosive plays. And so if you're going to get into any sort of a shootout with the Red Raiders, you've got to be able to bring your own ammunition, right? And throw a few haymakers yourself. But you're playing against a team that last time we saw them completely shut down a top 5 offense in explosive plays. Utah's offense had no room to breathe. And while it was more on the ground and short than Houston might look to do, I think they are going to take some shots, especially early. We know that Connor Wegman can throw that deep ball. To your point, Garrett, he's got to be given enough time to do it. And I wonder if he's going to have time to sit in the pocket and dissect that defense. I also think Tech is able to take away Tanner Koziel more than what any of the other opponents have been able to do so far. The linebackers, the safeties are just another level of athletic for Texas Tech. And while Koziel, I think, is going to have success no matter where he goes, if he's playing at Ball State or had he stayed at Wisconsin and obviously here at Houston, an extremely versatile athletic pass catcher. I think Tech is going to be able to isolate him. He can't just be the safety blanket for Connor Wegman, right? So I am interested to see how Houston navigates around that Tech defense. I'm also interested to see how Baron Morton plays, just period, full stop. There was a lot of chatter right after that Utah game over, well, what's his health status? Is he going to come back? Does he have the job when he comes back, or does he get Wally pipped by Sir William Hammond, who looked fantastic in basically a half of football up there in Utah? So from all indication, Barron's going to start. He did not lose his job, and he looked good when he's healthy. Just can he stay in and give Tech 4 quarters? That's, I think, what I'm really watching for on Saturday night. That's, again, 6 p.m. on ESPN. Let us know if you're taking the Red Raiders, big number maybe, on the road against Houston that's overperformed, or are you riding with the Cougars in this one?